And welcome to the 23rd edition of the Red Mountain Express. I'm your host, Blake Westbrook, and joining me as always is Mr. Matthew Joyner. Mr. Joyner, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm recovering a little bit from a cold. I've had some sore throat stuff the last couple of days, but I'm good, man. Had a great Thanksgiving. How about you?
I had a really good Thanksgiving. We traveled to Austin, Texas to see my wife's sister and her brother-in-law and their kids, and had a great time. And going to go over a few things before we get to our guest today. Some big news in Birmingham. Of course, Randall Woodfin was inaugurated as our new mayor in Birmingham. For those who don't know, he was on the show back in the summer, so please go back, listen to that episode. And Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, you said you'd come back on the show. So you have to come back on the show.
To be fair, we haven't called you yet, so it's okay.
You should be
But
listening.
if you want to call us,
should be listening.
You know our number.
Yeah. Also, UAB finished the season out. They are 8-4. They're going to a bowl, the Bahamas Bowl, which is a good bowl in my opinion. And I'm going to say it again, Matthew. Bill Clark, National Coach of the Year.
Look, I'm not going to argue against you more than I already have, other than to say that Gus Malzone looking really good.
That's where I was going to go. And unless you've been living under a rock, the Auburn Tigers defeated my alma mater, University of Alabama Crimson Tide.
Let me get a War Eagle.
Roll Tide. And yes, you will get a bottle of bourbon and 365 days of bragging rights. So it's coming your way. So I hope you enjoy early times. Or
you know
Heaven,
what?
Or Heaven's Hill, whatever the
whatever you
plastic
get me, I'm
bottle
going to
stuff.
share with you, so don't make it too bad.
Yeah, because I'm going to need to drown my sorrows. Yeah. But Matthew, do you know what time of year it is?
All right. I've been fighting it. We've still got a day left until December, but I'm going to say it because I know that's what you want me to say. It's Christmas time.
Yeah, you damn right it's Christmas time. One of my favorite things to do at Christmas time is go to the Alabama Theater. If you've not been there, they have the Christmas Film Festival. It was the way that I was introduced to Birmingham, and that's where we're coming to you from right now. We are actually sitting on the stage. It is beautiful here right now because our guest today is Gary Jones. You may know him. He is the man that plays the Mighty Wurlitzer organ, and we're happy to have him on the show today. Gary, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you?
Doing really good. So before we get started, kind of tell us your story when it pertains to Birmingham and how you made it to the Alabama Theater.
Oh, sure. We moved from Tuscaloosa, where I was born, to Birmingham the summer between the first and second grade. So I've been here for
Matthew.
A while. Roll Tide. And I've always had an interest in music. I started piano at 4 and graduated to organ at around 11 and never knew this beautiful building was here. And then by chance, when I was in college, I was listening to radio, and they advertised the annual Phantom of the Opera silent film. And I thought, well, gee, that might be fun. Let's go down and take a look, listen. And I came down and saw Tom Helms accompany the Phantom of the Opera, the 1925 original. And as they say, I was hooked. And this would have been around 80... maybe 1 or 2, 81 or 82. And the Alabama chapter of the American Theater Organ Society is the organization that maintains the Mighty Wurlitzer. And they said, hey, we work out here every Saturday. Come down and help us out. We regularly maintain the organ and keep everything up and running and tuned, and you're welcome to join. And the rest, they say, is history.
Is playing the Wurlitzer different from, I'm sure it is playing different from the piano, but how difficult is it to make that jump?
It's as big a jump as you can possibly make. I mean, piano is a wonderful instrument, and I love it. But with the piano, you have maybe 1 or 2 things going on at the same time. When you're playing the organ, and especially the theater organ, we have done some studies, and there are actually 17 different things going on in your brain at any given time.
Wow.
That you have to take and consider and keep track of all the time.
Not my brain.
Yeah, well,
There's no way I could keep up.
it's like you just really have to stay focused. And because you're with the Wurlitzer, you're conducting an orchestra. Wurlitzer actually never called it a theater organ. They called it a unit orchestra. It was designed and marketed as a replacement for a 40-piece orchestra, symphony. And so it's very orchestral in nature. It's designed to accompany silent films. Its goal and its purpose was to have one person playing instead of a 40-piece orchestra. And that's how they marketed it to the theater corporations, is why would you want to put 40 people on your payroll when you could buy one of our instruments and pay one person on your payroll? So it was a big marketing ploy.
Was this Wurlitzer here when the Alabama Theater was built by Paramount, or was it put in a little bit later?
No, it was when Paramount built this building in 1927. By that point, the Paramount Corporation had made lots of deals with the Wurlitzer Company, and almost every Paramount theater had a Wurlitzer organ in it. And their big thing was, and Wurlitzer's big thing was, look, if we can enter into this agreement, then we will give you a price break if you will purchase all of your instruments for all of your theaters from us. And of course, that made good sense to Adolf Zucker, and made good sense to Farney Wurlitzer, and so a deal was struck, and Wurlitzers almost always went into Paramount theaters. Now, we're unique in that when this theater was built, Birmingham was considered a mid-sized market, so this was originally about a 2,500-seat house. And for a 2,500-seat house, which there were 17 of throughout the nation, Paramount had 17 of this size house throughout the country. They developed a specific model of Wurlitzer that was only sold to Paramounts. It was the Publix number 1, and that's what this instrument is. It's a Publix 1, Model 1. 17 of them built, only 3 of them remaining in their original location, ours here, the Seattle Paramount, and the Denver Paramount. So this was built. It was shipped from the Wurlitzer factory on November 11th, 1927, was installed, and it was playing on Christmas Day for the private opening, 1927, and then the public on December 26th, 1927. So if you do the math real quick, we're about to celebrate our 90th birthday.
Yeah, right. And that's going to be highlighted with the reinstallation of the sign, right?
Correct, yeah. When the building was built in 27, there was a sign on 3rd Avenue North, a big vertical blade sign, and there was one on 18th Street between the alley and 3rd Avenue. And the brackets are still out there on the side of the building. In the mid-50s, that sign was taken down. The front sign on 3rd Avenue was renovated. Pieces and parts of that sign were used to renovate that, and that sign disappeared. We don't know where. Nobody knows or remembers where that sign went. It probably sat in some scrapyard for a minute and then went away. And what we've done is we had a chance to apply for a grant, and we actually won, and now that sign's going back, and that's going to be part of our 90th celebration, is the relighting of that sign. So somebody somewhere is working on that sign right now.
Yeah. That's going to be great. I love coming down 3rd and seeing the sign here, so having the other one on the other side of the building is going to be really cool.
Oh, yeah. And we've got pictures from that angle over catty corner that shows both.
Okay.
So it's going to be cool to see it happening.
Yeah.
So what changes have the Alabama Theater undergone since its opening in 1927? I mean, I know there's been massive amount of changes, but structurally, I know was there a fire at one point that almost damaged the Alabama Theater? Or
that was next door.
Yeah.
So you ask changes. Right off the bat, this building was built in 27, and that was the very same year that You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, or You Ain't Heard Nothing Yet, was uttered in perfect synchronization, and the silent film industry was gone overnight.
I think it was Al Jolson's the jazz singer, right?
Al Jolson. And the Vitaphone Corporation patented that synchronous music sound with the picture. And so just as this building was opening, that technology was on its way out in sound movies. So they had to very, very quickly, right off the bat, adapt to sound movies. That was one thing.
Let's say this theater would have opened in like maybe 1930. Would the Wurlitzer been here?
You know, the answer to that is yes, because there were still silent films being made, and just quite frankly, Paramount still had contracts with Wurlitzer outstanding. Now, if it had been built in 35 or 6, it probably wouldn't have had an organ, because by that point, the writing was on the wall, and it wasn't just a fly-by-night technology. It was pretty well over. You mentioned the fire next door. When this building was built, the architect designated several feet of fireproof brick between the Alabama and the Loveman's building. There was a kids show going on in here. 2,000 kids were in here. Loveman's, which was a wooden frame building at the time, burned to the ground. They never stopped the show because there was no chance that fire was going to get through. So it's definitely built to last. I think one of the other big significant changes, in around 54, there was a renovation of the theater. That was the first one. So some seats were changed out, a little bit of reconfiguration, some updates to heating and air were done. And then the most recent, 1998, was the full restoration, and that's when we went from... You'll get people to argue with me on numbers, but 2,508 seats to around 2,100 seats.
What was taken out?
Well, if you look out from the stage, some of the seats were, especially on the main floor, were modernized and widened, so you got a little bit better comfort, so that decreased a number of seats. There were handicap and ADA seats added and wheelchair accessible seats added. That took out some seats. And then if you look to the very back, our soundboard and sound control and also video control is all back there, and that took out at least 2 rows of seats. So that being said, we went from that 25 to 2,100. And then if you look up, the dress circle did the same thing. Now, once you go into the first and second balconies, those are seats still left over from the 54 renovation.
Oh, I did not know that.
So those have been the biggest thing. Now, right now, as we speak, and I told you when we started this that there were people in and out of the building, we have just begun the modernization and upgrade of our cooling system. So we have brand new cooling towers that are up on top of the old Goldstein Fur building, which we now own. And that whole system, that chiller system and air conditioning system, is being replaced with a much more modern and much more efficient system. We used to have one big giant 14-foot in diameter squirrel cage fan that circulated the air in the building.
Wow.
And now we have a 16 fan array that's in the same place of that, so that we can turn on multiple fans or fewer fans and speed them up or slow them down to control. So as the building fills up with patrons, the system recognizes that the temperature is rising, and so it increases the amount of airflow. Kind of a modernization of HVAC control.
Yeah, that's cool.
Used to it was just on or off.
Right, yeah.
No more sweating at the Alabama Theater.
Now, so with all the changes that have happened, has the Wurlitzer ever been moved from its position, or is that its original location?
Well, its original location. If you're looking up from the auditorium toward the stage, you will see the what some people refer to as the box seats. They're really not box seats. That's where all the pipes and instruments from the Wurlitzer live. Now, those have never been moved. Those have always been there. So behind the curtain over here and behind the shield up there on the right and left are the solo, main, and string chambers. They're filled with the ranks and sets of pipes, all the different instruments. The console sits on its original lift, and it goes up and down. We talked about silent films. It had to go down so that the patrons in the first few rows would not have an obstructed view. But the organist still needed to see the film that was on the screen. So the console will lower down on a lift, and that way barely can see the top of the console, but the organist can see the picture just fine. What we did in the 98 renovation, if you look, it's sitting on not an original platform. That platform is actually sitting on the original lift, and there is now a little way to bump that thing up so we actually can move the console to virtually any position in the building. We could actually bring the console here on stage. We could bring the console outside and play the organ from outside. You couldn't hear it, but, but we could do it.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to fix the Wurlitzer when something goes wrong? I mean, I'm sure that finding parts cannot be easy for it. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, we're lucky. As I mentioned, the Alabama chapter of the American Theater Organ Society has been maintaining this instrument for a number of decades. And we have, up above the offices, we have an entire floor that's the Wurlitzer Organ Workshop. And we have a fine organ crew that works here every Saturday. They can fabricate virtually every piece and part of the Wurlitzer. They can certainly repair every piece and part. And they have done such good work that we now have other chapters and other theaters that send work over here for us to do and send back to them. Their work is certainly top-notch. And I'm the lucky recipient of that, because you go to other theaters and you walk in the door and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we're fine. Here's what's wrong with the organ today." when we have organists that come here, and when I come here, everything works. Nobody's here to tell me what doesn't work because everything works, and we're really lucky that everything works. Our crew chief, Larry Donaldson, always has a mapped out approach of what's going to happen next, scheduled events, scheduled tuning, scheduled maintenance, and he and that crew do an incredible job of keeping her world class. So we're lucky in Birmingham to have her.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors over at Beecham Woodworks, and we'll be back with more from Gary Jones and the Alabama Theater. Beecham Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and K&M Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beecham Woodworks creates affordable quality pieces that will be a one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit redmountainexpress.com/woodworks or check them out on their Facebook and Instagram accounts. Beecham Woodworks, turning your house into a home. Welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. We're here with Gary Jones, the Alabama Theater. Gary, talk about how the Alabama Theater, you were telling us off the air how the Organ Society bought it. Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's actually what happened. In the mid-'80s, the Organ Society had been maintaining the organ for a number of years. The then infamous Costa Head organization had come into Birmingham, and they were purchasing several properties to do some renovation in the downtown area. And they had a great plan, a great vision, but they didn't have the means or the wherewithal to make it all happen, and they wound up in bankruptcy court. The Theater Organ Society saw the writing on the wall, and they knew that the theater would go through the bankruptcy process, and it would be sold and torn down for high-rise or office buildings or whatever. Because who wants a 1927 movie palace? Psst, nobody, except the theater organ people. And they approached the bankruptcy attorneys and judge and asked if the Theater Organ Society could purchase the Wurlitzer to remove it from the building and find a suitable location, since it was destined that this building would be torn down. And the very savvy bankruptcy attorney said, no. If you want to buy the organ, you'll have to buy the building and therefore its contents. And the Theater Organ Society, stubborn little group that they were, said, all right. And they raised the money to pay off the back taxes, get the thing out of bankruptcy, and assume the mortgage which Citizens Federal held at the time. And we raised enough money to take over and assume that mortgage. And then it's like, well, what do you do with the 1927 movie palace? So the Theater Organ Society formed another nonprofit called Birmingham Landmarks to own and operate on a daily basis the theater. And it's another nonprofit, a 501c3. So Birmingham Landmarks set out its mission to own and operate and get everything going here at the Alabama Theater, including the 98 restoration. And so Landmarks has been quietly owning and operating the theater since that fateful day in the very late 80s. Now, as time progressed, the Lyric, which is across the street, the family that owned the Lyric wanted to see something done with it, but there again, they knew they didn't have the means to have it restored. They knew that they didn't have the wherewithal and probably not the desire to run it. It's a much smaller house. It was built in 1914. A vaudeville house, part of the Keith Circuit, and back then vaudeville ran a circuit. It came down the East Coast and through Birmingham and up to Memphis and up to Chicago, and then the loop started back from the Chicago area back through Memphis, Birmingham, Atlanta, up the Eastern Seaboard back to New York. And you had to have a venue in every little town to do those vaudeville acts. The Lyric was designed specifically for vaudeville. And, here's an interesting thing about the Lyric. If you go back over there on the alley side off of 18th Street, there are what are referred to as elephant doors. And they really are elephant doors. They are doors designed so that an elephant can fit through, because there were vaudeville.
Has there ever been elephants in the Lyric Theater?
Yes.
Okay.
I was there last night. No. There were elephants and animals that were part of vaudeville acts, and so they had to have the means and structural integrity to get those animals in and out. So there were elephant doors at the Lyric.
And we can't get an elephant at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. You're right.
Oh goodness. The family that owned it approached Birmingham Landmarks and agreed to sell the Lyric to Birmingham Landmarks as long as the terms and conditions were met, that they would restore the building, that they would not tear it down, and that they would not resell it. And so the family that owned the Lyric sold the Lyric to Birmingham Landmarks for $10.
Wow. When was that sale made?
That would have been in the, I'd have to get my timeline calendar down. That would have been the early 2000s. And it sat for a little while we had to formulate a plan of how to raise the money and what we would do with it, how it would fit into a projected theater district, because we have the Carvers around the corner from that. But then of the 43-ish odd theaters in this area, in just a 6-block area, all of them are gone, except the Alabama.
I didn't know there was that many theaters in this area.
Lots of them.
Do you see another theater maybe being built in this area other than the 3 that are here now?
Well, I say no, but then, ASFA has the Dorothy Jemison Day Theater, which has been just recently built, and the Alice Stevens Center is a fine theater, and that's just been recently built. But as far as a movie palace that's so ornate like the Lyric or the Alabama, no.
It's not the craftsmanship's around anymore for that?
There aren't the people or the craftsmen to do that, and then you have that utilitarian design mindset that you want it to be sort of kind of plain so that you can be neutral, as opposed to this, which is anything but neutral. Right. And I don't think people are willing to spend the money to make something like that happen from the ground up. You either restore and rescue what you have, or you wind up with these very nice and very useful, but I call them black box theaters.
But it's more than just movies that come here. I mean, y'all have movies, y'all have concerts. I've been here for a dance competition one time.
No, it's so weird. We're truly a performing arts center now, and we have concerts coming up. We have the holiday film series starting on Friday the 8th, and those run through the 22nd. As soon as those are over, right after the New Year's Eve celebration and the lighting of the new sign on 18th Street, we immediately go into dance competition season, and that lasts from the end of January all the way through the end of May.
And they're here all day.
Thousands of little girls and their stage moms. Yeah. Then we go right back into the summer film series, the classic films, and then we have what we call concert season, which is from middle of August through the end of November, and we will have concerts galore. We just had Hip Hop Nutcracker, lots of fun. This Sunday's Chris Tomlin, sold out, oversold. In January we have Jason Isbell, 3 nights, 3 shows. All 3 sold out already. It's just crazy.
He's great. Alabama Pines is one of my favorite songs. Yeah, he's really good.
Now, and for the anniversary, you have Sister Hazel and
Taylor Hicks.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're going to be here. Tickets are still available for that. We will take that all the way up to the midnight hour, and then at midnight for New Year's, we'll unveil the sign. That'll be a lot of fun.
So we can't end this interview without talking about the Christmas Film Festival. I've said it, I think, in this interview, and I'll say it 1,000 times before.
Every episode for
the last 3 weeks. I was introduced to Birmingham through the Alabama Theater. I had a very poor opinion of Birmingham for some dumb reason, and then I came here and I was like, this was a really cool place, and it was kind of a front door for me for Birmingham. And I know that I'm not alone on that. I know a lot of folks, it's part of their Christmas tradition. It's part of mine. We come see It's a Wonderful Life. Do you find that to be...
I have to tell you the history of how this whole Christmas movie season came about. And when Landmarks was formed and we were sitting here in a December with nothing going on, because nobody does concerts in December, or at least in the 80s and 90s, nobody did. And so we were trying to figure out what we could do to promote the theater in December when we were completely dead. And the then president of Landmark, Cecil Whitmer, had this great idea, and he took and gave tickets away to the big corporations. And so he would give, I'm just calling out numbers here, he'd give 1,000 tickets to Alabama Power, and he'd give 1,000 tickets to AT&T, and he'd give 1,000 tickets to Alagasco, and say, have your friends and family come. And it was a great way to expose the theater to people who had, at the time, were still not coming downtown. The downtown had not seen the revitalization that we are experiencing right now. And he did that for a couple of seasons. It was a tremendous loss. But then that third season, people started coming on their own accord because it was an annual tradition. And now we have reached a point where we are what's the saying? You're of your own success.
A victim of your own
A
success.
victim, yeah, thank you. A victim of our own success. So right now, here we are. We're still, a week out.
And the tree is up in the front. The lights are out. Matthew, it's Christmas time. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But we already have 7 movies that are sold out. And we don't...
Jump on it.
Well, I look at it this way. We don't just show movies. We have an experience. And so your family comes, and I have a family coming, I know, on the second night, and this will be their 19th year that they've come to a Christmas movie. And people pull up and they're in costume, and they are pulling up in their SUVs and their minivans, playing the movie that we're going to show on the screen, but it's just not about the movie. It's about the experience. It's about the lights. It's about the tree. It's about the organ and the sing-along and just getting everybody together. And these families, I've watched them for all these years now. They've gone from little bitty kids to adults, and now they're married with kids, and they've got kids, and it's really turned into this whole big, wonderful family affair where you've got folks that are just coming and coming and coming back, and then now they're clamoring those, this is where we sit, and they're kind of like Baptists. That's my seat, and so it's really a wonderful time of the year, and I think it makes people pause and remember what family is like and what it used to be like as a family to go out and do something together. And
we make a night of it. I mean, it's like, usually it's around the 12th because that's when my wife and I started dating, so we kind of use that as an anniversary. Like, we're going to go to the Alabama Theater.
Yeah.
We're going to go see It's a Wonderful Life. Probably because my wife likes to see me cry, because at the end I'm just shattered. But it's such a wonderful movie. What's your favorite movie we show here? Y'all show here at Christmas time?
Oh, okay. My personal favorite is Meet Me in St. Louis.
Oh, that's really good.
And that's it's not really a Christmas movie. It just has a Christmas scene in it. But man, that's a great, great movie to watch.
And what am I going to say, Matthew? Because I'm looking at you right now.
Go ahead.
The song "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" was written in Birmingham, in Southside Birmingham,
by Hugh Martin. I've
said that like 5 times.
Yep. So we've got that tie right here. After that, I don't know. It would be a toss-up. Our best, and I only say this, it's not because of the movie. I think it's just because of the crowds. But Christmas Vacation is
people dress up for that,
crazy. Right? I mean, we have whole entire casts show up. We have a family that comes from every character in the movie, and it's just phenomenal. So my experience there is not necessarily the movie. It's the interaction with the folks. We have a costume parade and let them come out and be seen, and I love doing that. So
now, would you say the Christmas Film Festival, this event, would you say that's your favorite part of what you do here, or is there something else that you would?
Well, I like the summer films too, because we show. There are only so many Christmas movies that that are really out there that are showable to get people to come in,
and they stay on rotation here pretty much every year,
and they do, and we show most of them multiple times.
Yeah,
but in the summertime we have the summer film series, the summer classic films. And those rotate out, and we show on Friday nights. We show some more modern stuff, Princess Bride or Star Wars or something like that. A good classic film, but from maybe the 70s or 80s. And then on Sundays we head back to the old musicals. And our Sunday afternoon crowd is a little bit older, and they enjoy coming down to see those wonderful, wonderful MGM musicals and Warner Brothers musicals. And I love that because it's such a variety, and that changes fairly frequently. We show Gone with the Wind as our ending each season. That's
the
a
Wizard
given.
Of Oz one year. Go to that every year. I've been here for that. That was really good.
Almost every year. And then we show Casablanca for Valentine's. We just are booking that now for February 14th.
You're already booking for that?
Oh, yeah. In my world, it's February.
Oh.
Christmas is over. Sorry.
But see, he gets Christmas in like September, which is really awesome.
Man, that's true. That's true.
So I guess I know, like Blake and like myself, there are a lot of people who are fans of the Alabama Theater and of the older buildings that Birmingham has to offer and the history and the richness there. If people want to get involved with the Alabama Theater or in some way help or volunteer, is there any way, an outlet to do that?
Oh, sure. We are always looking for volunteer ushers. That's a great channel and a great way to do a couple of things. One is to help support the theater. The other is to come down, and once you've gotten the patrons seated, you get the chance to see the show, and you don't know who's going to be your next event. So you really get to see some great things, a lot of variety of entertainment. So that's one good way to help. Our volunteers are... oh, good heavens! They're just immeasurable as to we always need more. Mm-hmm. You can never have enough.
And how can people get more information on that or volunteer to help out here?
Yeah, we would direct them to the Usher Corps, and they can call the theater and be directed to that. And the number's easy to remember. It's Alabama 252-2262. Just call down, and one of the nice office people will refer you to the head usher.
Great. Well, Gary, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This has been a great experience for both of us, and I said this once on the show before, but we're actually sitting on the stage right now, so if our mics have kind of gone in and out, it's because we're looking around right now at everything. So
it's hard to stay focused on the mic.
Well, it is. It's hard in this building to stay right here in one place when everywhere I look around, I'm here every day, and every day I see something new and different.
How many years have you been at the Alabama Theater now?
Since '81, and I've been full-time here on staff since 14. I retired, quote unquote, and then came on board here full-time.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you
both. Before we
both.
go, I think he's going to play the Mighty Wurlitzer for us.
Yeah, we're going to close out with that, overlaid with our exit like we normally are. So
yeah, thank you so much for being with us. Of course, for all listening, you can go to the Alabama Theater's website and you can volunteer to be an usher, or you can see the Christmas Film Festival or any other events that are going on. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you so much for Matthew Joyner and Blake Westbrook. And here's Gary Jones on the Wurlitzer.